Li Tae-min walked through the marble halls of the Galactic Council building for the last time. His footsteps echoed in the empty corridor. The other ambassadors were busy with their morning meetings. None of them knew what was happening. He carried a simple data pad in his hand. It contained humanity's final report to the Council. 200 years of membership, 200 years of trying to be accepted as equals. Today, it would all end. The council chamber was half empty when he entered. Most members were still having breakfast or dealing with trade disputes. Councillor Vextar from the Zentari Empire nodded at him. The blue-skinned alien had always been polite to Taemin, but never truly respectful. Ambassador Li, Vextar said. Another human report, I assume? Yes, Taemin replied simply. He placed the datapad on the submission table. Our final contribution to council records. Vextar barely looked at it. Very good. The council appreciates human efforts. Taemin almost smiled at that word. Efforts. As if humanity's work was just busy activity with no real value. He bowed, slightly, and left the chamber. Outside, Park Ji-won waited by the transport shuttle. The military attaché looked tense. Her uniform was perfectly pressed, but her eyes showed worry. How did it go? She asked. Exactly as expected, Taemin said. They took the report and dismissed it, no questions asked. Good. That means they still don't suspect anything. They walked to the shuttle together. The pilot was Captain An Dong-wook, one of the last humans still on the council station. His hands moved over the controls with practiced ease. All human personnel have reported in, Dong-wook said. We're the last ones. And the colonies? Ji-won asked. Empty. Every single one. The evacuation finished 3 hours ago. Tae-min looked out the shuttle window as they left the station. In the distance, he could see the lights of New Geneva Colony, or what used to be New Geneva Colony. The buildings were dark now. The humans who had lived there for 50 years were gone. They had left everything behind. The hydroponic farms that fed half the station, the fusion reactors that powered the commercial district, the medical centers that treated every species in the sector. All abandoned, but not destroyed. That was important. Humans didn't destroy things when they left. They just left. The shuttle docked with the transport ship Peaceful Dawn. It was one of hundreds of human ships scattered across the galaxy. All of them were leaving today. All of them were heading home. Kim So-ra met them at the airlock. The chief engineer looked tired but satisfied. She had spent months planning this evacuation. Every detail had been perfect. All systems are green, she reported. We're ready for departure. Any problems with the other ships? Tae-min asked. None. Every human vessel is on schedule. The cargo ships, the research vessels, even the deep. Space mining platforms. Everyone is going home. Home. Earth had been calling them back for months now. Not ordering, just suggesting. The message had been simple. You have served long enough. Come home. Most humans had been ready to leave anyway. The galaxy was beautiful, full of wonders and strange new worlds. But it was also full of species who saw humans as useful tools rather than equals. The Zentari used human engineers to fix their machines, but never invited them to design new ones. The Corvani hired human diplomats to solve their problems, but never listened to human advice about preventing those problems. The hegemony bought human art and music, but called it primitive, charm. 200 years of being the galaxy's janitors. 200 years of cleaning up messes and getting polite thank yous in return. It was enough. Choi Min-ho joined them in the command center. The colony coordinator had just finished his final reports. He looked relieved. The handover documents are complete, he said. Every human facility has detailed instructions for basic Maintenance. The aliens should be able to keep things running for a while. How long? Sora asked. Depends on the facility. The power plants might last 6 months if they're careful. The water treatment systems maybe 3 months. The agricultural centers? He shrugged. 2 weeks, maybe less. Taemin nodded. The aliens would learn quickly how much they had depended on human knowledge. But that wasn't humanity's problem anymore. The peaceful dawn began to move. Through the viewports, they could see other human ships doing the same. Sleek transport vessels, heavy cargo haulers, even the tiny research pods that had been studying quantum phenomena in the Vega system. All heading home. Captain Dong Wook announced departure over the ship's communication system. Attention all. Passengers. We are now leaving Council space. Estimated travel time to Earth, 47 days. 47 days. After 2 centuries in space, that seemed like nothing. Taemin walked to his quarters and sat down at the small desk. He opened his personal computer and began typing his own report. Not for the Council, but for Earth Command. They would want to know exactly how the withdrawal had gone. Day 1 of Operation Silent Return, he wrote. All human personnel have been successfully evacuated from Council space. No incidents reported. Council members showed no unusual interest in our departure. Mission parameters achieved. He paused, then added, personal note, they still don't understand what they're losing. It was true. The Council saw humans as a minor species. Helpful, certainly. Good at fixing things and solving problems. But not important. Not really. They would learn. In the cargo bay, Sora was checking the storage manifests. The humans had taken everything that mattered. Not just personal belongings, but knowledge, technical manuals, research data, manufacturing processes. Everything that made human technology work. The aliens had human machines, but they didn't understand how those machines worked. They had human medicines, but they didn't know how to make more. They had human food supplies, but they didn't know how to grow the crops. It would take them years to figure it out. Maybe decades. Some things they might never learn. That wasn't cruelty. It was just practical. Humans had shared their knowledge freely for 200 years. They had taught anyone who wanted to learn, but the aliens had preferred to just buy the finished products. Easier that way. Now they would have to learn the hard way. The ship's communication officer, Lieutenant Yoon Hai-jin, approached Taemin with a message pad. Sir, we're receiving signals from other evacuation groups, all reporting successful departure. No pursuit, no questions from Council security. Good. Any word from the deep space teams? The research stations have been abandoned on schedule. The mining operations shut down their equipment and left. Even the diplomatic outposts are empty. Taemin nodded. It was working perfectly. Humanity was simply vanishing. Like they had never been there at all. Except for the empty buildings, the silent machines, the systems that would start failing in a few weeks. The Council would notice eventually. Probably when the food shipments stopped arriving, or when the power grid started shutting down, or when the first trade disputes turned violent because there were no human mediators to calm things down. By then, humanity would be gone. Really gone. Not just physically absent, but completely disconnected from galactic civilization. The Peaceful. Dawn joined a convoy of other ships as they left the system. Taemin counted them through the viewport. 43 vessels, carrying over 50,000 humans home to Earth. It was a small number, really. Humans had never been a large presence in the galaxy. They had made up less than 1% of Council space population, but they had been in all the important places. The power plants, the communication networks, the transportation hubs. The places where things actually got done. Soon, the convoy reached the edge of Council space. The navigation computers marked the boundary with a soft chime. They were in neutral territory now. Free space. No Council authority. No alien laws. For the first time in 200 years, humans were completely on their own again. Taemin looked back one last time at the lights of Council space. Thousands of worlds, billions of beings, hundreds of different species. A magnificent civilization that had achieved wonders. A civilization that was about to learn what happened when they took their maintenance crew for granted. The convoy jumped to hyperspace, heading for Earth. Behind them, they left empty stations and silent machines, and a galaxy that was about to discover what humans had really been doing all these years. Counselor Vextar noticed the problem first. It was small at the beginning, just a delay in the weekly trade reports from Sector 7. The Corvani merchants complained that their cargo ships were arriving late. "Where are the traffic controllers?" asked Captain Krelton, a Corvani trade master. "Our ships are getting lost in hyperspace. The navigation beacons aren't working properly." Vextar checked the personnel files. The traffic control center for Sector 7 was run by humans. Had been for 30 years. The same humans who had just submitted their final report and left. "I'll look into it," he told the captain. But when he called the control center, nobody answered. The communication line was dead. Dr. Yoon Hai-jin was packing her laboratory when the first emergency call came in. She was the last human scientist at the Galactic Research Institute. Her colleagues had been begging her to stay. "But who will maintain the quantum computers?" asked Dr. Zelvak, a Zentari physicist. "You designed half the systems here." "The manuals are all in the database," Hai-jin replied. She carefully placed her personal research notes into a sealed container. 20 years of work on dimensional physics, work that had revolutionized galactic science. "Manuals are not the same as experience," Zelvak argued. "Please, at least stay until we can train replacements." Hai-jin shook her head. "I received my recall orders 3 days ago. All humans are going home." "Recall orders? From whom?" "Earth Command." Zelvak looked confused. "But Earth hasn't issued military orders in decades. Why now?" Hai-jin sealed the last container and picked up her bags. "I don't question orders, Doctor. I follow them." She walked out of the laboratory, leaving behind equipment worth billions of credits, equipment that only she really knew how to operate. The next day, the quantum computers crashed. Without Hai-jin's daily maintenance routines, the delicate systems began to fail. Complex calculations that had taken minutes now took hours. Some experiments became impossible. Captain An Dong-wook was loading the final cargo containers when the security alert came through. Council security was asking questions about human departures. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're getting inquiries from 3 different council departments. They want to know why humans are leaving their posts." "What did you tell them?" "Standard diplomatic response. Personnel rotation. Normal procedure." Dong-wook nodded. It wasn't really a lie. Humans were rotating back to Earth. They just weren't planning to rotate back out again. The cargo ship's steady progress was one of the last to leave. It carried the personal belongings of human families who had lived on council worlds for generations. Children who had never seen Earth, grandparents who remembered the old days before humanity joined the galaxy, all going home. As they departed, Dong-wook watched the orbital stations they were leaving behind. Most were still functioning normally. The alien crews didn't realize what was missing yet, but they would soon. The first major failure happened on Kepler Station. It was a massive commercial hub that served 12 different star systems. 500,000 beings lived and worked there, and its entire environmental system was maintained by a team of 40 human engineers. When the oxygen recyclers started making strange noises, the station manager called the engineering department. No answer. He went down to the engineering levels personally. The department was empty. Clean, organized, but completely empty. On the main computer, he found a simple message. "Emergency procedures available in Terminal A7. Good luck." The emergency procedures were basic, enough to keep the station running for maybe 2 weeks. After that, they would need someone who actually understood the atmospheric processors. All the humans who understood those systems were gone. On Vega Colony, the hydroponic farm started failing. The automated systems produced error messages in human technical language. The Corvani farmers who worked the land knew how to plant and harvest, but they didn't understand the complex nutrient mixing systems. Without proper nutrition, the crops began to die. Vega Colony had fed 8 different worlds in the sector. Now their food shipments were dropping by 10% each day. Councillor Vextar called an emergency meeting. Only half the council members showed up. The others were dealing with problems in their own territories. "We have a situation," Vexitar announced. "Human personnel are leaving their positions across council space. Critical systems are beginning to fail." "How many humans are involved?" asked Councillor Rayshaw from the hegemony. "All of them." The council chamber fell silent. "All of them?" Rayshaw repeated. "Every human in council space appears to be departing. Military attachés, civilian engineers, diplomatic staff, research scientists, even the janitors. That's impossible. There are humans on every major world, every important station. They can't all be leaving." Vexitar activated the main display screen. It showed a map of council space with thousands of small red dots. Each dot represented a human-staffed facility. As they watched, the dots began turning black. One by one, human positions were being abandoned. "This started 5 days ago," Vexitar explained. "We didn't notice at first because humans make up less than 1% of our population, but they occupy key positions in infrastructure, logistics, and maintenance." Another council member, Gorak of the Mineral Guild, leaned forward. "What about their contracts? Their obligations?" "All properly terminated. Every human filed the correct paperwork. They gave appropriate notice. Everything is legal." "But why?" asked Rayshaw. "Why are they all leaving at once?" Nobody had an answer. The communication from Earth Command arrived 6 hours later. It was brief and formal. "To the Galactic Council, humanity hereby notifies the Council of our withdrawal from active participation in galactic affairs. All human personnel are being recalled to Earth space. This withdrawal is immediate and permanent. No further communication will be accepted on this matter." The message was signed by President Go Minji, Earth's head of government. Vextar read the message 3 times. It was polite but final. No explanation, no negotiation, no discussion. "Contact Earth immediately," ordered Rayshaw. "We need to understand what's happening." But when they tried to call Earth, the communication lines were dead. Not disconnected, just silent. Like Earth had simply stopped listening to the galaxy. The problems multiplied quickly. On Titan Base, the fusion reactors started overheating because no one knew how to recalibrate the magnetic containment fields. Human engineer Nam Ki-jun had been doing that job for 15 years. His replacement manual was 40 pages long and written in technical language that the Zentari engineers couldn't understand. On the trade route between Altair and Centauri, merchant ships started disappearing. Not destroyed, just lost. The navigation network that guided ships through hyperspace relied on human-built relay stations. Without human technicians to maintain them, the stations were broadcasting incorrect coordinates. Ships that should have taken 3 days to make the journey were arriving a week late. Some weren't arriving at all. Dr. Yoon Hae-jin's shuttle was approaching the neutral zone when she received an emergency communication from the Research Institute. "Doctor, please respond," came Zelvak's desperate voice. "The quantum computers have failed completely. We need your help." Hae-jin almost answered, almost turned her shuttle around. These beings had been her colleagues for 20 years. Some of them were friends. But her orders were clear. No contact with council space. No assistance. No exceptions. She deleted the message without responding. Behind her, the greatest scientific facility in the galaxy was shutting down piece by piece. Experiments that had taken years to set up were being abandoned. Research that could have revolutionized Medicine, physics, and engineering was being lost, all because the beings who had built those systems were going home. The council called another emergency session. This time, every member attended. The chamber was full of angry, frightened aliens who were just beginning to understand the scale of the crisis. "Trade is down 30%, reported the Corvani representative. "Our navigation systems are failing. Merchant ships are afraid to leave port. Food production has dropped 20% in the agricultural sectors," added the hegemony delegate. "The human-designed farming systems are too complex for our people to operate. Medical facilities are reporting shortages," said another member. "Human pharmaceutical companies produce 60% of our medicine. Their factories are all shutting down." Vextar listened to the reports with growing dread. In 5 days, the galaxy had gone from normal operation to crisis, and it was getting worse by the hour. "What do we know about this Earth Command?" he asked. "Very little," admitted the Council's intelligence chief. "Humans have always been secretive about their home government. We assumed it was just cultural preference. Get me everything we have on human capabilities. Military strength, technology levels, population numbers, everything." "Yes, sir." "But, sir, most of our information about humans came from humans. If they're not talking to us anymore..." Vextar understood. The galaxy's knowledge about humanity was largely based on what humans had chosen to share. If humans had been keeping secrets, the Council might know nothing about their true nature. The intelligence report arrived 2 hours later. It was disturbingly thin. Humans had been members of the Council for 200 years, but they had revealed very little about themselves. Their military WI. 3 weeks after the humans left, the galaxy was falling apart. Commander Yang Sung-ho stood on the bridge of the heavy cruiser Iron Mountain and watched the chaos through his view screen. They were at the edge of Council space, observing but not interfering. Earth Command had been very clear about that. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving distress signals from 17 different systems. Station failures, shipping disasters, food shortages. Any request for assistance?" "Yes, sir. The Council is broadcasting general emergency calls. They're asking any available ships to help with evacuations." Yang nodded but didn't respond to the calls. His orders were to observe and report, nothing more. The Iron Mountain was one of 12 human ships positioned around Council space. They were the rear guard, making sure no humans were left behind and that the withdrawal proceeded smoothly. So far, everything was going according to plan. On Kepler Station, Station Manager Velmar was facing a complete atmospheric collapse. The oxygen levels had been dropping for 2 weeks. The carbon dioxide scrubbers were failing. 500,000 beings were in danger of suffocating. He stood in the abandoned human engineering section, staring at control panels covered with buttons and screens he didn't understand. The emergency procedures had kept them alive for a few days, but they weren't enough. "Have we found any humans willing to help?" he asked his assistant. "No, sir. We've sent messages to every human settlement we know about. No responses." "What? About Earth itself?" "Communication lines are dead. It's like Earth has vanished from the galaxy." Velmar pressed random buttons on the atmospheric control panel, hoping something would work. Warning lights flashed red. The air recyclers made grinding noises that sounded very bad. An hour later, the main atmospheric processor shut down completely. Dr. Zelvac had given up trying to save the quantum computers. Without Heijin's expertise, the entire research institute was useless. Billion-credit experiments were being shut down and packed away. The worst part was the translation network. Engineer Quan Jae-sung had designed the Universal Translation Protocols 20 years ago. The system that let different species communicate with each other relied on quantum processors that only he truly understood. When those processors failed, the galaxy started losing its voice. Trade negotiations between the Corvani and Zentari collapsed when their translators stopped working properly. Military communications became confused when officers couldn't understand their alien crew members. Even simple conversations became difficult when subtle meanings were lost in translation. The galaxy was becoming a Tower of Babel, with hundreds of species unable to talk to each other. Counselor Vextar had moved his office to the Council's Emergency Operations Center. The main chamber was no longer usable because the environmental controls had failed. Without human maintenance, the building's life support systems were breaking down. "Status report," he demanded as soon as his aide entered. "Bad news across all sectors," the aide replied. "Food production is down 60%. Transportation. Networks have collapsed in 12 systems. Medical facilities are running out of supplies. What about the technical manuals the humans left behind?" "Inadequate. The manuals explain basic operations but not maintenance or repair procedures. It's like they left us instructions for driving a car but not for fixing the engine." Vextar rubbed his temples. He was beginning to understand the scope of what had happened. Humans hadn't just been employees in the galactic economy. They had been the foundation that everything else was built on. "Sir," his aide continued, "we've also lost contact with the Outer Rim colonies. The deep space communication relay network has failed. The Outer Rim, 50 billion beings living on frontier worlds, completely dependent on the galactic supply network. If they couldn't communicate with the rest of the galaxy, they couldn't request supplies. Food, medicine, equipment, all of it had to come from the core worlds. Without the communication network, the Outer Rim was effectively cut off from civilization." "How long until they start dying?" Vexatar asked quietly. "The agricultural worlds might last 3 months. The mining colonies, maybe 6 weeks. The research stations..." His aide paused. "Some of those might already be in trouble." On the research vessel Cosmic Dawn, Dr. Bei Yunji had been studying dark matter interactions when the recall order came. She had tried to transfer her research to her alien colleagues, but the work was too complex. Yunji had spent 10 years developing new medical treatments based on quantum biology. Her work had saved millions of lives and promised to save millions more. But the techniques required precise understanding of both human physiology and alien biochemistry. The other species had learned to use her treatments but not to create them. When her laboratory shut down, the galaxy's most advanced medical research stopped completely. Now she was aboard the transport ship Gentle Rain, heading home to Earth. In her personal files, she carried breakthrough research that could have cured cancer in 12 different species, research that the galaxy would never see. The first planetary government fell on Rigel 4. The planet's entire infrastructure had been designed and maintained by human engineers. When the power grid failed and the water treatment plants shut down, the government collapsed in riots. 30 million Zentari civilians were stranded on a world that could no longer support them. The planet's leaders begged for emergency evacuation, but there weren't enough ships. The human-designed transportation network that could have organized a rescue was no longer functioning. Commander Yang received reports of the crisis, but couldn't intervene. His ships had the capacity to help, but his orders were absolute: no contact with Council space. He watched through his sensors as alien ships struggled to organize rescue operations. Without human logistics coordination, the effort was chaotic and inefficient. Ships collided while trying to reach the same landing zones. Supplies were delivered to empty areas, while populated regions received nothing. It was painful to watch, but Yang followed his orders. Song Yu-jin had been the Council's chief mediator for 15 years. She had prevented dozens of wars and resolved hundreds of trade disputes. Her techniques for finding common ground between different species had become legendary. But those techniques had never been written down. They existed only in her experience and intuition. When she left for Earth, the galaxy lost its most effective peacemaker. Within days of her departure, old conflicts began to resurface. The Corvani blamed the Zentari for the failing transportation networks. The Zentari accused the hegemony of hoarding medical supplies. Small disputes that Song could have resolved in hours escalated into serious diplomatic crises. The Council tried to mediate, but they lacked Song's skills. Arguments that should have been simple to resolve dragged on for days. Trust between species began to break down. War was becoming possible again. Admiral Lim Kyung-soo commanded the human evacuation fleet from the flagship Morning Star. His sensors tracked every human ship as they converged on Earth space. The operation was proceeding perfectly, but his long-range sensors also showed what was happening in Council space. The collapsing infrastructure, the failing governments, the growing conflicts between species. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "Council space is experiencing complete system failure. Estimates suggest 50 billion casualties if the crisis continues." "Not our problem," Lim replied firmly. "Continue on course for Earth." But privately, the Admiral felt a deep sadness. The galaxy had been humanity's home for 2 centuries. Many of the beings who were suffering now had worked alongside humans, lived near humans, even called humans friends. This wasn't about hatred or revenge. It was about dignity. For 200 years, humans had been treated as useful servants rather than equal partners. When they contributed to galactic civilization, their work was taken for granted. When they solved problems, they were rarely thanked. When they offered advice, they were politely ignored. The galaxy had made it clear that humans were tolerated, not valued, so humans had left. The final blow came when Earth itself went dark. Council scouts had finally reached the Sol system, hoping to negotiate with Earth's government. What they found was impossible to believe. Earth was empty, not destroyed, not damaged, just completely uninhabited. Cities stood intact but vacant. Space stations orbited silently with no life signs. The entire human home system was like a museum with no visitors. "Where did they go?" asked the scout ship captain. Nobody had an answer. 6 billion humans had simply vanished without a trace. No ships, no energy signatures, no clues about their destination. Earth's final message was broadcast from an automated system. "Humanity has withdrawn from galactic civilization. Do not attempt to follow. Do not attempt contact. We will not respond." Then, even the automated systems shut down. Counselor Vextar stared at the scout reports in disbelief. An entire species had vanished. The most capable engineers, the best mediators, the finest doctors in the galaxy, all gone. And they had taken their knowledge with them. The council held an emergency session in a hastily converted conference room. Half the members attended by hologram because travel between systems was no longer safe. "We need to face facts," Vextar announced. "Without human expertise, our civilization is collapsing. We have maybe 2 months before complete system failure." Then, we find them 6 weeks after the humans left. The Galactic Council was meeting in a cargo bay. Their main building had lost life support completely. Emergency power was failing across the capital world. The proud center of galactic civilization was slowly dying. Counselor Vextar looked around at his colleagues. Many appeared by hologram because their ships couldn't reach the capital. Others attended wearing breathing masks because the air recyclers were producing toxic fumes. "We need solutions," Vextar announced. "The situation is beyond critical." The reports were devastating. Food production had collapsed in 47 systems. Transportation networks were down in 2/3 of Council space. Medical supplies were running out everywhere. "The Outer Rim colonies have gone completely silent," reported Admiral Zenkari. "We assume they're dead." "How many?" asked Counselor Rayshaw. 50 billion, maybe more. "We can't be sure because the communication networks are down. The number? Hung in the air like a death sentence. 50 billion beings dead because the galaxy couldn't function without human maintenance. What about our attempts to reverse engineer human technology? Vextar asked. Chief Engineer Moltar shook his head. Impossible. Human systems are incredibly complex. They appear simple on the surface, but the underlying technology is beyond our understanding. Give me an example. Take the atmospheric processors on Kepler Station. The control interface has 12 buttons. Any child could learn to operate it, but inside the machine are quantum field generators, molecular assemblers, and crystalline computing matrices. We don't even know what half those components do. Vextar rubbed his temples. How long to develop equivalent technology? Centuries, maybe millennia. Humans appear to have developed along completely different technological paths than the rest of us. What about hiring human mercenaries? Surely some humans would work for enough money. We've tried, said Intelligence Chief Carlos. We've broadcast offers across neutral space. Massive payment, full diplomatic immunity, anything they want. No responses. Not even from criminals or outcasts? Nothing. It's like every human in the galaxy vanished at the same time. The meeting was interrupted by an emergency alert. Another system failure, this time in the capital's main fusion reactor. The backup power would last maybe 6 hours. We're running out of time, Vextar said grimly. If we can't restore basic services, this government will collapse within days. The trade guilds are already talking about forming their own emergency councils, reported Rayshaw. Several colony worlds have declared independence. Our authority is crumbling. Then we need to make contact with Earth Command, declared Gorak. Whatever it takes. How? We don't even know where Earth is anymore. Carlos activated a star chart. We've searched the Sol system extensively. No trace of human presence, but our deep space monitoring stations detected massive energy signatures 3 months ago. Something big left the solar system. Signatures. Consistent with what? Planet-moving technology. It appears that humans somehow relocated their entire homeworld. The council chamber fell silent. The idea was impossible, yet the evidence was clear. Humans had physically moved their planet to an unknown location. They moved Earth itself? Whispered Rayshaw. That's the only explanation that fits the data. 6 billion humans, their entire civilization gone in a single day. Vextar stared at the star chart. If humans could move planets, what other capabilities had they hidden? How powerful were they really? A new hologram appeared in the chamber. It was distorted and flickering, but recognizable. President Go Minji, the leader of Earth Command. Counselors, she said calmly, I understand you've been trying to contact us. The chamber erupted in surprised voices. Vextar raised his hand for silence. President Go, thank you for responding. We need to discuss the current crisis. There is no crisis, Go replied. There is a consequence. Humanity has withdrawn from galactic affairs, as we clearly stated. But billions are dying, pleaded Rayshaw. Entire worlds are collapsing without human maintenance. That is unfortunate, but it is not our responsibility. Vextar leaned forward. We understand that humans feel undervalued. We're prepared to offer full equality, equal representation. In the council, anything you require. Go's expression didn't change. You had 200 years to offer equality. You chose not to. We can change. We can do better. Perhaps. But that is your choice to make. Humanity will not be part of it. Please, begged Gorak. At least, send technical advisors. Help us understand your systems. We'll pay anything. Our technology is not for sale. Admiral Lim Kyung-soo appeared beside Go in the hologram. His uniform showed the insignia of the Human Fleet Command. Counselors, he said formally, you have 1 hour to complete this communication. After that, we will not respond to further contact attempts. 1 hour? Vextar was shocked. We need time to negotiate, to work out agreements. There will be no negotiations, Go stated flatly. Humanity's position is final. We are withdrawing from galactic civilization permanently. But why? Demanded Rayshaw. What did we do that was so terrible? Go paused before answering. You treated us as servants pretending to be equals. Every human contribution was taken for granted. Every human achievement was minimized. Every human voice was politely ignored. That's not true, protested Vexstar. Humans were valued members of our society. Were we? When the Zentari needed engineers, they hired humans. When the Corvani had trade disputes, they used human mediators. When medical breakthroughs were needed, human scientists provided them. But when policy decisions were made, human opinions were rarely considered. Admiral Lim added, You used our people as tools, useful tools, but tools nonetheless. We can change that, Vexstar insisted. Full council membership, voting rights, equal status in all matters. Too late, said Go simply. Dr. Bei Yunji appeared in the hologram. She looked tired but determined. Counselors, you don't understand what you're asking. You want us to return and save your civilization. But your civilization never accepted us as equals. Why should we care if it survives? Because we're talking about billions of lives, pleaded Rayshaw. Yes. And for 200 years, those billions of lives depended on human expertise, while treating humans as second-class citizens. You created this dependency. We didn't. The hologram flickered. The connection was becoming unstable. Please. Vexstar tried one last time. At least tell us where you've gone. Maybe we can start over, build a new relationship. That information is classified, Admiral Lim replied. The galaxy is falling apart without you. Surely you feel some responsibility. President Go's voice turned cold. The galaxy chose to become dependent on us while refusing to treat us as equals. You made your choice. Now live with the consequences. This is genocide, accused Gorak. You're condemning billions to death. No, said Go quietly. We're giving you exactly what you always wanted, a galaxy without human interference. You never listened to our advice anyway. Now you won't have to. The hologram began to fade. Wait, Vexstar called desperately. What would it take? What would convince you to return? Go's image was barely visible now. Nothing. Goodbye, counselors. The hologram disappeared. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Their last hope of negotiation had just walked away. They're really not coming back, whispered Rayshaw. No, agreed Vexstar. They're not. Admiral Zenkari leaned back in his chair. What happens now? We survive, said Vexstar grimly. Or we don't. The lights in the cargo bay flickered and went out. Emergency power had failed. In the darkness, the council members listened to the sound of their civilization dying. Outside, riots were starting in the capital city. Food distribution had collapsed. Water treatment plants were failing. The population was beginning to panic. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. On thousands of worlds, billions of beings were discovering what life was like without the humans who had quietly kept everything running. Some planets were trying to rebuild their infrastructure from scratch. Most were failing. The technology was too complex, the knowledge too specialized. A few worlds were attempting to develop their own solutions. But that would take decades, maybe centuries. Their populations would be dead long before then. The galaxy had become utterly dependent on human expertise without realizing it. Now that expertise was gone, and there was no replacement. In the emergency command center, Vexstar tried to coordinate relief efforts. But without the communication networks, without the transportation systems, without the basic infrastructure that humans had built and maintained, coordination was impossible. Sir, reported his aide, we're receiving surrender requests from 12 different sectors. Local governments are giving up. Surrender to whom? Anyone who can provide food and basic services. Pirates, crime syndicates, mercenary groups. Desperate people will accept any authority that can keep them alive. Vextar nodded sadly. The great galactic civilization that had lasted for thousands of years was crumbling in a matter of weeks, all because they had taken their maintenance crew for granted. The worst part was that the humans had been trying to warn them for years. Reports about infrastructure vulnerability, recommendations for redundant systems, suggestions for cross-training alien personnel, all politely filed away and ignored. Now those ignored warnings were becoming reality. The galaxy was learning that human competence 8 weeks after the human departure, the Galactic Council was desperate. Half of Council space was in open rebellion. The other half was dying slowly as infrastructure continued to fail. Councillor Vextar stood before the emergency assembly. Representatives from across the galaxy filled the temporary chamber. Many looked angry. All looked frightened. "We have tried negotiation," Vextar announced. "Earth Command refuses all contact. Humanity has made it clear they will not return, voluntarily." "Then we make them return," declared General Morgak of the Zentari military. "We have laws about abandoned infrastructure. We have protocols for emergency conscription." "You're talking about war," said Councillor Rayshaw nervously. "I'm talking about survival," Morgak replied. "This council has the legal authority to recall essential personnel during galactic emergencies. Humans are essential personnel." Vextar activated the main display. "Legal research has confirmed that Resolution 847X would give us the authority to compel human return. It's an ancient wartime protocol." "Wartime protocol?" asked Admiral Zenkari. "Are we declaring war on humanity?" "We're declaring a state of emergency," corrected legal advisor Pelnock. "Resolution 847X allows forced recall of any species deemed essential to galactic security. Humans qualify." The chamber buzzed with nervous conversation. Many representatives were uncomfortable with the idea, but desperation was overriding caution. "What if they refuse the order?" asked Rayshaw. "Then we enforce it," said Morgak simply. "We locate their new homeworld and compel compliance." "With what fleet? Half our ships can't navigate without human-built systems. We'll use what we have. Pirates and mercenaries are volunteering ships in exchange for food and supplies. Desperate, crews will fight for basic necessities." Dr. Oh Young-min was monitoring Council communications from the human observation post at Kepler Station. The station had been secretly reoccupied by human intelligence teams as soon as the aliens abandoned it. "Sir," she reported to General Nam Ki-jun, "Council forces are massing at Rally Point 7. Looks like a military buildup." "How many ships?" "Approximately 3,000 vessels. Mixed fleet composition. Many appear to be civilian craft with weapons retrofits." Nam smiled grimly. "The aliens were desperate enough to arm cargo haulers and call them warships. Any indication of their target?" "Negative. They're searching for our location. Long-range scouts are sweeping neutral space. Let them look. They won't find us." The human fleet was hidden in the space between galaxies, completely outside normal. Shipping lanes. Earth and the entire human population had been relocated to a mobile space platform larger than most star systems. It was technology the aliens couldn't imagine, let alone counter. Back in the council chamber, the debate was becoming heated. Some representatives wanted to try negotiation one more time. Others demanded immediate military action. "Every day we delay, more systems fail," argued Gorak. "The mining worlds in Sector 12 just went dark. That's another 1 billion casualties." And, "You think starting a war will improve things?" challenged Rayshaw. "I think humans will be more reasonable when they realize we're serious." Councillor Yelron from the Hegemony stood up. "I've reviewed the legal precedents. Resolution 847X has been used 17 times in galactic history. In every case, the targeted species complied rather than face military action. Because those species didn't have the ability to move their entire homeworld," Rayshaw pointed out. Humans are still just one species, declared Morgak. We represent hundreds of worlds, trillions of beings. They'll have to negotiate. Vextar called for order. The legal framework is clear. Resolution 847X gives us the authority to compel human return. The question is whether we have the courage to use it. What's the alternative? Asked Admiral Zenkari. Watch our civilization collapse? Maybe that's what we deserve, said Rayshaw quietly. The chamber fell silent. Nobody wanted to hear that truth, but many were thinking it. Vextar activated the voting system, all in favor of implementing Resolution 847X, authorizing the forced recall of human personnel under emergency conscription protocols. The votes appeared on the main screen. 847 in favor, 12 opposed, 3 abstentions. Resolution 847X is approved, Vextar announced. Counselor Yextar from the Mineral Guild approached the confirmation console. His hand hovered over the activation key. This is our last chance, he said. Once I press this key, we're committed to a course of action that might destroy us all. We're already being destroyed, replied Morgak. At least this way we're fighting. Back! Yextar pressed the key. Immediately, alarms began sounding throughout the chamber. The activation of Resolution 847X triggered automatic military protocols that hadn't been used in centuries. What's happening? Demanded Vextar. Emergency war powers are activating, reported the system operator. All military forces are being placed under council command. Mobilization orders are being transmitted. War powers? Rayshaw looked horrified. We didn't vote for war powers. Resolution 847X automatically triggers emergency military protocols, explained legal advisor Pelnock. It's designed for crisis situations that threaten galactic survival. So we're at war? Technically, yes. The Council has just declared war on humanity. In the human observation post, alarms were also sounding. Dr. Oh Young-min watched her screens in amazement as Council military networks activated emergency protocols. Sir, they've done it. They've declared war. General Nam Ki-jun smiled coldly. Excellent. Signal all units. Operation Silenced Voice is now active. Across the galaxy, hidden human monitoring stations came online. For 8 weeks, skeletal human crews had been secretly maintaining critical systems while appearing to have abandoned them completely. But those systems had been modified. Built-in fail-safes and hidden programs that humans had installed decades ago were now activating. On Titan Base, the fusion reactors that had been struggling to operate suddenly shut down completely. Not damaged, just turned off by override codes that only humans knew. The communication relay network that had been failing randomly began failing systematically. Every major hub went dark within minutes. Transportation scheduling computers across 50 systems simultaneously crashed, stranding millions of ships in hyperspace. What's happening? Demanded Vextar as reports flooded in. Total system failure, reported his aide. Everything's shutting down at once. Is this related to the resolution? Unknown. The timing suggests it might be a human response. Within an hour, it became clear that humanity had been prepared for this exact scenario. Every major system in council space was failing simultaneously. Not from neglect or accident, but from deliberate sabotage. Dr. Engineer Hong Da-yoon watched from the stealth ship Silent Observer as alien vessels struggled with navigation failures. Their targeting systems were offline. Their communication networks were dead. Even their life support systems were malfunctioning. Impressive, she commented to Captain Ryu Hyojin. They armed every cargo ship they could find, but they forgot that all their weapons systems use human-designed targeting computers. How long until they figure it out? They won't. The fail-safes are buried too deep in the code. They'd need human programmers to find them. And they just declared war on all the human programmers. Exactly. The council emergency session was in chaos. Representatives were screaming at each other as reports of system failures continued to arrive. This is sabotage, declared Morgak. Humans have been planning this for years." "Of course they have," replied Rayshaw. "They knew we'd eventually try to force them back. They prepared for it. How could they sabotage systems they didn't control?" "They built those systems," pointed out Admiral Zenkari. "They probably installed override codes from the beginning." Vextar was beginning to understand the true scope of what they had done. "Are you saying humans have had control of our infrastructure all along?" "It appears so. They could have shut us down at any time." "Then why didn't they?" "Because they weren't trying to conquer us. They were trying to help us." The realization hit the chamber like a physical blow. For 200 years, humans had possessed the power to destroy galactic civilization. Instead, they had chosen to protect and maintain it, until now. A new communication signal appeared on the main screen. It was Admiral Shin Woo-jin, commander of the human fleet. "Counselors," he said calmly, "you have declared war on humanity. We accept your declaration." "Admiral, please," begged Vextar. "We can reverse the resolution. We can call off the war." "Too late. You made your choice when you pressed that key. We're desperate. Our civilization is dying." "Yes. And rather than asking for our help, you decided to enslave us." General Morgak leaned forward aggressively. "You can't fight the entire galaxy. We have superior numbers." Admiral Shin smiled. "Do you? Let me show you something." The display screen changed to show a star map of Council space. Thousands of small lights appeared, surrounding every major world and station. "Those are human ships," Shin explained. "We've been watching you for 8 weeks. Every move you've made, every ship you've built, every plan you've discussed. We know everything." "Impossible. Our sensors would have detected you." "Your sensors use human-designed detection algorithms. We know exactly how to avoid them." Captain Ryu Hyojin's voice joined the communication. "We're not just surrounding your worlds. We're inside your defense." The war lasted exactly 4 hours. Admiral Shin Woo-jin stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dawn and watched the galaxy surrender. Not through battle, but through the simple realization that fighting was impossible. "Sir," reported Captain Ryu Hyojin, "all Council military forces have ceased operations. Their ships are dead in space." "Casualties?" "None. Their weapon systems are offline, but life support is functioning. We're not killing them, just disabling them." Shin nodded. This wasn't about revenge. It was about demonstration. On the Council homeworld, Counselor Vextar sat in his darkened emergency chamber and tried to understand what had happened. 4 hours ago, they had declared war on humanity. Now their entire civilization was helpless. "Status. Report?" he asked weakly. "Every military vessel is disabled," reported Admiral Zenkari. "Not destroyed, just completely non-functional. Their crews are alive but stranded." "What about our planetary defenses?" "Offline. The weapons won't respond to commands. It's like they were never connected to our control systems." "How is that possible?" "The humans built those defense networks 40 years ago. Apparently, they included some very effective backdoors." Vextar rubbed his temples. "So they've had control of our defenses all along?" "It appears so. They could have conquered us at any time." "Then why didn't they?" Before Zenkari could answer, the main display activated. Admiral Shin appeared, but this time he wasn't alone. Behind him stood President Go Minji and Ambassador Lee Tae-min. "Counselors," Shin said formally, "this demonstration is now complete." "Demonstration?" asked Vextar. "You declared war on us. We wanted to show you what war with humanity actually looks like." "You've disabled our entire military, without firing a single shot, without killing a single being. Your people are alive, but your ability to threaten anyone is gone." President Go stepped forward. "You wanted to understand human capabilities. Now you do." "Why?" Vextar's voice was barely a whisper. Why reveal this now? Because you forced us to, Ambassador Lee replied. For 200 years, we've hidden our true strength to avoid frightening you. We pretended to be just another species seeking membership in your club. But you were never just another species. No, we weren't. Admiral Shin activated a holographic display showing the space around Earth's new location. What appeared was staggering in scope. Massive orbital platforms surrounded a star system that hadn't existed before. Ships the size of moons moved between construction yards building vessels that dwarfed anything in Council space. This is humanity's true home, Shin explained. We've been building it for 300 years, long before we ever contacted your Council. 300 years, gasped Counselor Rayshaw. But you only joined the galaxy 200 years ago. We were exploring the galaxy for a century before we revealed ourselves. We studied every species, every government, every conflict. We learned about galactic civilization before deciding whether to join it. Engineer Hong Da-yoon appeared in the hologram. We could have conquered the entire galaxy 3 centuries ago. Instead, we chose to integrate peacefully. Why? Demanded General Morgak. Because conquest is wasteful, President Go replied. We preferred cooperation, but you never truly cooperated with us, protested Vextar. You had all this power, and you hid it. We shared what we thought you could handle. Our basic technology, our peaceful intentions, our desire to help. But we kept our advanced capabilities secret, because we knew they would frighten you. Admiral Shin added, Every species in the galaxy would have seen us as a threat. Instead of partners, you would have viewed us as potential conquerors. So you pretended to be weak? We pretended to be your equals. We thought that would be more comfortable for everyone. Dr. Bae Yunji joined the hologram. For 200 years, we've been carefully managing our relationship with the galaxy, sharing enough technology to help, but not enough to threaten. Contributing to your civilization without dominating it. You've been manipulating us all along. We've been protecting you, corrected President Go, from yourselves and from us. What do you mean? Captain An Dong-wook stepped forward. Counselors, in the past 8 weeks, your civilization has killed 50 billion of its own people through incompetence and panic. You've started 3 civil wars and completely destroyed your infrastructure. That was because you left us. Exactly. This is what your civilization looks like without human guidance. Chaos, violence, and death. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. You weren't just maintaining our technology, whispered Rayshaw. You were maintaining our peace. Every trade dispute we mediated, said Ambassador Lee. Every war we prevented, every crisis we resolved. We've been keeping your species from destroying each other for 2 centuries. And you never told us. Would you have listened? Would the proud Zentari Empire have accepted that they needed human help to avoid civil war? Would the Corvani Federation have admitted that their economy only worked because humans fixed their mistakes? Vextar knew the answer. No, they wouldn't have listened. They would have been insulted by the suggestion that they needed guidance. So, what happens now? He asked. Admiral Shin's expression was unreadable. That depends on you. You've proven your point. We understand that we were dependent on you. We accept that you're more powerful than us. What do you want? Nothing, President, Go said simply. We want nothing from the galaxy. Then why this demonstration? Because you declared war on us. We don't fight wars to win territory or resources. We fight wars to end them permanently. You're going to destroy us? No. We're going to leave you alone. Completely alone. Dr. O. Young Min appeared in the hologram. Every human system in Council space is being permanently shut down. Not just turned off, but destroyed at the molecular level. You'll never be able to reverse engineer our technology. Every human-built facility is being sterilized of our influence, added Engineer Hong Da-un. No traces, no clues, no hints. about how anything worked. You're taking your knowledge with you. All of it. Every technical manual, every design specification, every process improvement. 200 years of human contribution to galactic civilization erased. Vextar felt sick. You're condemning us to the Dark Ages. We're giving you exactly what you always wanted, replied Ambassador Lee. A galaxy without human interference. But we need your help to survive. Do you? You managed for thousands of years before we arrived. Surely you can manage again. President Go stepped closer to the camera. The galaxy made a choice. You decided that humans were useful servants rather than equal partners. You chose to take our contributions for granted while treating us as second-class citizens. We can change. We can do better. Perhaps, but you'll have to prove that without our help. How long? Asked Admiral Zenkari. How long do we have? The shutdown will be complete in 72 hours, replied Admiral Shin. After that, you're on your own. And if we survive, if we rebuild, could we contact you again? In 1,000 years, maybe. If your civilization learns to value cooperation over exploitation. If you develop the wisdom to treat all species as equals. 1,000 years? That's how long it took you to create this mess. It might take that long to fix it. The hologram began to fade. Wait, called Vextar desperately. At least tell us how to prevent the worst disasters. How to keep the basic life support systems running. President Go paused. You have 72 hours to figure that out yourselves. People will die. People are already dying. That started the day you took our help for granted. The communication ended, leaving the Council in absolute darkness. Across the galaxy, human ships began their final withdrawal. But this time, they left nothing behind. Every piece of human technology self-destructed. Every human-designed system shut down permanently. The galaxy would have to start over from scratch. On the flagship Eternal Dawn, Admiral Shin watched the last human ships depart Council space. The operation had been flawless. Humanity's withdrawal was complete and irreversible. Admiral, reported Captain Ryu, all human personnel have been evacuated. No traces remain. Good. Set course for home. Yes, sir. Sir, do you think they'll survive? Shin considered the question. Some of them will. The smart ones, the cooperative ones. They'll learn to work together because they'll have no choice. And the others? The others will discover what happens when you bite the hand that feeds you. The human fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading for their new home in the space between galaxies. Behind them, they left a civilization that would have to learn the hard way what cooperation really meant. On the Council homeworld, emergency sessions continued in the darkness. Some representatives argued for attempting to rebuild their technology. Others suggested trying to negotiate with other galactic powers. A few wise voices suggested learning to work together for the first time in their history. Counselor Rayshaw was one of them. Maybe this is what we needed, she said quietly. Maybe we needed to lose everything to understand what we really had. You're saying this is a good thing? Demanded Morgak. I'm saying we've been given a second chance. A chance to build a civilization based on cooperation instead of exploitation. Without human help, most of us will die. Then we'd better learn to help each other. In the months that followed, some species did learn. They shared resources, combined technologies, worked to get.